divine worker.
Yeah.
Go ahead, start.
To attain to the divine birth, a divinizing new birth of the soul into a higher consciousness, and to do divine works both as a means towards that before it is attained and as an expression of it after it is attained, is then all the Karma Yoga of the Gita. The Gita does not try to define works by any outward signs through which it can be recognizable to an external gaze, measurable by the criticism of the world. It deliberately renounces even the ordinary ethical distinctions by which men seek to guide themselves in the light of the human reason. The signs by which it distinguishes divine works are all profoundly intimate and subjective. The stamp by which they are known is invisible, spiritual, supra-ethical.
A very small para, but very, very clear. Let's see what he says. To attain to the divine birth. So, what is the divine birth? You are born as a human being and you have to become divine. The divine birth comes as when your consciousness changes entirely. Consciousness, when you are identified with your body, mind, life, is a human nature. And when your consciousness goes out and does not identify itself with the body, mind, life, it starts to become the divine nature. Okay, so that's the first step. So to attain to the divine birth, first of all, you need liberation. Liberation of what? Liberation of your soul and consciousness, which loses its identification with body, mind, life. Okay, number one. Then, a divinizing new birth of the soul. That's why they say one who has realized himself is called Dvija, born twice. Even in English, you have he is twice born. That means it's a second spiritual birth. First of all is a physical birth, and the second is a spiritual birth. The consciousness is totally different. You have lost your identification with body, mind, life. So that's it. A divinizing new birth of the soul into a higher consciousness from level 1 to level 2. Level 1 is the normal consciousness of everybody. Okay? What we are all. We are in ignorance. We think we are body, mind, life, and we think all the appearances in the physical world are real. That's level 1. Level 2, you realize that the appearances in the physical world are only the superficial aspects of the reality. They are real only in time and space, not otherwise. They are not permanently real. They are transitory. They are transient forms. So that's the divine. And the divinizing new birth of soul, it will higher consciousness. Higher consciousness, level 2. Okay? And to do divine works, both as a means towards that, before it is attained, and as an expression of that after it is attained, is then all the Karma Yoga of the Gita. So, Karma Yoga in the Gita has 2 stages. The first stage is you are doing your works as an offering to the divine. That will enable you to reach the divinizing of the soul. That will make it possible. And once you have realized the divine, then now you continue to act in the physical world, but as a servant of God. The quality of your effort changes. In the first one, you are a human being trying to aspire and bring down the higher values into the lower. So that is the first stage. The second stage, you have got the values, but you are trying to bring down those values into your everyday life. Okay, and the work is not important. You can do any work. Okay, as the Gita insists and also Surya insists, it's not the quality of the work that is divinizing. If you are doing, if you are a philosophy teacher, then it's a higher work than sweeping the floor. It's not like that at all. Even the sweeping of the floor can become a divine action, provided your consciousness is at a higher level and you are doing it for the Lord. I go to the next sentence. The Gita does not try to define works by any outward signs. Okay? What quality of work you are doing does not matter at all. Okay? It's an inward attitude that matters. The Gita does not try to define works by any outward signs, through which it can be recognizable to an external gaze. Someone who is in ignorance and looks at your work and say, oh, he is doing divine works. Oh no, he is not doing divine works, not at all. Okay, it's not like that. Okay? Because the outer work will remain the same. As I said, if you are sweeping the floor, you can be sweeping it for the divine and not for yourself. The ego is not there. So the work itself does not matter at all. It depends on your inner attitude with which you are doing the work. I remind you of that very interesting case when the judge from Patna came and he thought that he will be given some work which will be of a high quality. Okay? But he was told to wipe dishes in the dining hall after they are boiled in hot water. And then you have to wipe the dishes. So he was a little offended, but as soon as he started wiping, he had a beautiful experience. He saw Srim's image in the dish he was wiping. So then his whole inner attitude changed. He was doing it no more for himself and no more hurting. He was not feeling offended, but he was doing it for the divine. So that's exactly a good example of the type of work. Okay? Even wiping a dish can be done for the divine. Okay, so external, through which it can be recognized to an external gain, measurable by the criticism of the world. Okay? So in other words, one who sees you, who is in ignorance, will say, oh, he is doing very menial work. Your work is being criticized. It is a very low type of work. You are sweeping the floor. But one who is in a divine consciousness or a superior consciousness, he knows that you are doing it for the divine and not for yourself. So the Gita's action is not measurable by the criticism of the world. Okay? Those who say there is a higher value and a lower value work. Work itself, there is no higher and lower value. The work, the value of the work depends upon your consciousness and not the work itself. It deliberately renounces even the ordinary ethical distinctions by which men seek to guide themselves in the light of the human reason. So, ethical distinctions, morally good works and morally wrong works, even that is thrown to the winds by the Gita. Okay? The Gita does not think. Sometimes even your immoral, so-called immoral actions can be done for the divine. Okay? They're very famous. There are so many examples of that. No? Les Miserables, the story of Les Miserables, Jean Valjean, uh, who steals bread. Okay, so and later on he becomes a different character altogether. So there are so many cases like that. Okay, so even the ordinary ethical distinctions by which men seek to guide themselves in the light of the human reason. Guide themselves in the light of the human reason is all ethics and morality. Because human reason cannot go beyond morality. It's only the consciousness above, level 2, that goes beyond morality. The science by which it distinguishes divine works are all profoundly intimate and subjective, not at all objective. The work itself in the external world does not matter. The stamp by which they are known is invisible, spiritual, supra-ethical. 3 adjectives, very, very clear. Invisible to normal people in the physical world. Spiritual, you know, those who are already at a spiritual level can recognize that this man is doing works in a divine manner. That's it. Yeah, I remind you of Mother's famous quote, seul le semblable connaît le semblable. Okay? So, the one who is similar to you only recognizes your consciousness. So that is spiritual. Supra-ethical is saying that the work that you do for the divine need not necessarily be moral. It can even go to immorality, but that's an extreme case. 90% of the time, it tallies with the moral code. You mustn't think that the spiritual life and the moral code are absolute opposites. It's not like that. There are a lot of moral things which are quite acceptable to the divine consciousness. So that completes the first para. Now we can go to the next para, which is also not very big, slightly more than half a page. Okay, so what is the work, divine work? He is discussing in the first paragraph. Second paragraph, we can start. We decided that Kiran would read. Yeah, Kiran.
Yes, yes, Rangan. They are recognizable only by the light of the soul from which they come. For it says, what is action and what is inaction? As to this, even the sages are perplexed and deluded, because judging by practical, social, ethical, intellectual standards, they discriminate by accidentals and do not go to the root of the matter. I will declare to thee that action by the knowledge of which thou shalt be realized from all ills. One has to understand about action as well as to understand about wrong action and about inaction, and one has to understand thick and tangled is the way of works. Action in the world is like a deep forest, ghana, through which man goes stumbling as best as he by the light of the ideas of his time, the standards of his personality, his environment, or rather of many times, many personalities, layers of thoughts and ethics from many social stages, all inextricably confused together. Temporal and conventional admits all their claim to absoluteness and immutable truth, empirical and irrational in spite of their aping of right reason, and finally, the sage, seeking in the midst of it all a highest foundation of fixed law and original truth, finds himself obliged to raise the last supreme question whether all action and life itself are not a delusion and a snare, and whether cessation from action, a karma, is not the last resort of the tired and disillusioned human soul. But, says Krishna, in this matter even the sages are perplexed and deluded. For by action, by works, not by inaction comes the knowledge and the realize.
So, very interesting para, and these are all very famous quotes from the Gita, chapter 4, verses 16, 17, 18. Okay, so he is explaining what is karma, what is akarma, okay, non-action, and what is vikarma, then wrong action. So, three things, and Sri Krishna is going to explain: action, non-action, and wrong action. These are the three things that he will say. They, what does they stand for? They stand for the signs. Above in the third line from the bottom of the previous para, the signs by which it distinguishes divine works. Okay? They are recognizable. The signs are recognizable only by the light of the soul from which they come. So that's what he has said: invisible, spiritual, and supraethical. So it is the signs of divine work being done by the sadhaka is invisible to normal men. But it is those who are at a spiritual consciousness, those signs can be recognized because they are already, the light of the soul is in them. Okay, so that's what he's saying. They, the signs, are recognizable only by the light of the soul from which they come. For it says, okay, what is action and what is inaction? As to this, even the sages are perplexed and deluded. This is the 16th verse of chapter 4. Kim karma, kim akarma, iti kavayo atra mohita. Okay. Even the seers, even those who are seers. By the way, kavi does not mean necessarily a poet. Huh? The one who has vision, internal vision. Even in English, they use the word seer in that sense. A poet is a seer. अत्र होता तत् त्वे कर्म प्रवक्ष्यामि यत् ज्ञात्वा मोक्षसे अशुभात्. I will deliver you by giving you the knowledge of what is really karma. Okay? So, moksha se ashubha. I will tell you that. Okay, so that's what he's saying here. Even the sages are perplexed by action and inaction, because inaction is not physical. Okay? You can continue to do physical work And yet your consciousness may be absolutely static in a Brahmic consciousness, and that is a true inaction. The consciousness is not active. The consciousness is stable and absolutely situated as though seated on a mountain top. Okay? In the valley, your body mind life is continuing to work, but your consciousness is absolutely calm and quiet. That is the real inaction. The inaction is not in the physical at all. For it says, what is action and what is inaction? As to this, even the sages are perplexing believe. Because judging by practical, social, ethical, intellectual standards, they discriminate by accidentals and do not go by the root of the matter. Now, the word accidental has nothing to do with accidental. It means, it's a term in philosophy, and it means the properties of something, but not the essential thing. Okay? The outer form, the outer phenomena, okay? The accidentals. So what you are doing at the superficial level. The superficial level contrasted with the essential reality within. So that's what it means by accidentals. Those who are not at a normal level of ignorance, they discriminate and they make a difference between by judging the outward, superficial actions. Okay? So, and do not go to the root of the matter. The root of the matter you start seeing from where are these, the attitude coming. The attitude is coming from the consciousness of the soul, which is seated above. Okay? I will declare to thee that action by which the knowledge of which thou shalt be released. Sorry, I have to read it correctly. I will declare to thee that action. Okay? It's not, you should not read it as I will declare to thee that action by the knowledge. No, it's not to be read like that. That is particularly referring to a particular type of action. So it will be read like this. I will declare to thee that action by the knowledge of which thou shalt be released from all else. What is the nature of that action? Which will result in release, in liberation. One has to understand about action as well as to understand about wrong action and about inaction. So karma, then akarma, inaction, vikarma, the wrong action. Action in the world is like a deep forest, gahana. Gahana karmano gati. That's what the Gita says. Very tangled, very difficult to understand for those who are at a normal level. Through which man goes stumbling as best he can by the light of the ideas of his time. It depends at which level in time you are, because even in time is an evolution, and later times, things which are hazy in the beginning become much clearer as you go on in the evolution. We can see that even today, there are so many things which we have discarded. Okay? So, today only I read in the paper that one country is now, Germany, is legalizing drugs. The idea is that who are you to tell someone to do this or to do that? You have no right. Freedom is a more important element. Of course, this is some truth in it, but also there is another truth also. You have no right to impose a law on someone and say you should not take drugs. And if you take drugs, I will punish you. Now the idea, slightly better idea is that you remove the law. Okay? Remove the law. If you want, you take. Your freedom is important, but you will be harming yourself. So instead of putting a law, you give advice. Okay? Advise the person concerned that this is an action which will harm you. Then you leave it to themselves. Freedom is very important. There should be absolutely no imposition of laws on anybody. Remember that in the Gita, the last is absolutely no laws at all, total freedom. Okay? So that's it. We are going more and more towards freedom, but it's a very, everything in the physical world is imperfect. So, but law is certainly not good. We have to. I remember also very interestingly, once in the evening talks is saying about liquor. Okay, so many governments in India, many states have banned liquor. Oh, it is so bad. You know, you should. It will ruin your family. It will ruin your health. Okay, so we ban it. We are trying to do good for you. Okay? But Sri Aurobindo was not of that view. He said, rather than banning, because banning never works, huh? We all know that. When you ban something, black marketing starts. Things are available. So you're not solving the problem at all by banning. Okay? It's a totally wrong method. But you have to give proper, because when you do banning, yes. Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I come on my phone.
Yes.
My power is failing from the morning. It's going on fluctuating. That's why I come on the phone. Okay.
Mine also same thing, Rangada. It went away, and then so we are in the same street. No, it's I think some problem in the street.
Yeah. Just 1 second. We can continue now. So from the morning, I've been having fluctuation of, and the UPS, the uninterrupted power supply is going on, going off and coming on, going off and coming on. Okay, so we were at the action in the world is like a deep forest gahana, karmano gati. And there's an evolution, and the ideas also go on changing. So I gave you one example of how the realization that you should not impose your own ideas on others and make a law that will punish you for doing something. You have the right to do what you want. Many countries in Europe are allowing drugs to take place. Of course, there are problems with that, but it's maybe slightly better. As I told you, even Sri Aurobindo did not agree with the banning of liquor. He says that you give good, make sure that you give good liquor. The rest is up to the people concerned, because you cannot force people to be good. That doesn't work. So that's what he says in the evening talks. So I am reading the next one. One has to understand about action as well as to understand about wrong action and about inaction. One has to understand. Thick and tangled is the way of works. Action in the world is like a deep forest, Gahana, through which man goes stumbling as best as he can by the light of the ideas of his time, the standards of his personality, his environment, or rather of many times, many personalities, layers of thought and ethics from many social stages, all inextricably confused together. So, I'm explaining how complicated the question of action is. Okay, so there are so many factors that come in. We only think of good action and bad action, but it's not at all that simple. It's very complicated. So, then, inextricably confused together, temporal and conventional amidst all their claim to absoluteness and immutable truth, empirical and irrational in spite of their aping of right reason. You feel that you have the right to do something for others, but that's not. It becomes a very interesting principle. For instance, okay, I'm just giving you a very interesting example also in modern times, how you think that you are doing good for everybody. Okay. So, for instance, now they have seen that if you wear a helmet when you are driving a vehicle, scooter or motorcycle or whatever, you should wear a helmet. And if you don't wear a helmet, you are punished. You are fined. What right do you have to tell people to wear a helmet? Okay. At sometimes there is necessary, but many schools, for instance, they have a uniform. Okay. But that is because of other reasons. But in the ashram school, you can wear any clothes you want, so far as it is decent. Okay. So freedom is a very important concept, but it has to be tempered by other considerations. So I go to the next sentence. And finally, the sage seeking in the midst of it all a highest foundation of fixed law and an original truth finds himself obliged to raise the last supreme question, whether all action and life itself are not a delusion and a snare, and whether cessation from action, akarma, is not the last resort of the tired and disillusioned human soul. Because people have been misinterpreting in India for a long time that don't do any works in the physical world. Because if you do work in the physical world, it will give you attachment to what you are doing. And if you have an attachment, you go away from your spiritual effort. So don't do any action. Now, the Isha Upanishad says, the Gita also says, and Sri Aurobindo also says the same thing, that action it does give you attachment to and desire. But that is not absolutely a necessary thing. Maybe 75% of the time, or even 90% of the time, action in the physical world will give you attachment and desire. But that doesn't mean to say that it is absolute. You can do physical work in the world without attachment, without desire. Okay. So, na karma lipyate nare, as very clearly the Isha Upanishad states. Right in the first shloka itself, it says that action does not bind a man. Okay. So that's exactly what is. So now he's raising that last question. Should you resist from, should you desist? Should you withdraw from all action in the physical world? That's a question being raised. And the last supreme question, whether all action and life itself are not a delusion and a snare, and whether cessation from action, a karma, is not the last resort of the tired and disillusioned human soul. Of course, the answer will be from the Gita as well as from the no, it is not. You should continue to act in the physical world. However difficult it is, but don't withdraw from the physical world. But, says Krishna, in this matter, even the sages are perplexed and deluded. For by action, by works, not by inaction, comes the knowledge of the release. Now, the third para today, what's the time? We have got 10 minutes. So we can read the third para. What then is the solution? So, what then is the solution? So, who will read now next? Sarika has read and Kiran has read. Now, anyone who has got the text? Shilpa, you got the text?
Yes, I have a text.
Okay, go ahead, read.
Yes, Rangadhar. Shall I read?
Go ahead. Yes, certainly.
Okay. We are not able to hear your voice clearly, Rangadhar.
Yeah, I can hear clearly.
Okay. What then is the solution? What is that type of work by which we shall be released from the ills of life, from this doubt, this error, this grief, from this mixed, impure, and baffling result, even of our purest and best intention acts, from this million forms of evil and suffering? No outward distinctions need be made, is the reply. No work the world needs be shunned. No limit or hedge set around our human activities. On the contrary, all action should be done, but from a soul in yoga with the divine Yukta Kristana Karma Krit Akarma. Cessation from action is not the way. The man who has attained to the insight of the highest reason perceives that such an inaction is itself a constant action, a state subject to the working of nature and her qualities. The mind that takes refuge in physical inactivity is still under the delusion that it and not nature is the doer of works. It has mistaken inertia for liberation. It does not see that even in what seems absolute inertia greater than that of the stone or cold, nature is at work, keeps unimpaired her hold. On the contrary, in the full flood of action, the soul is free from its works, is not the doer, not bound by what is done, and he who lives in the freedom of the soul, not in the bondage of the modes of nature, alone has release from works. This is what the Gita clearly means when it says that he who in action can see inaction and can see action still continuing in cessation from works is the man of true reason and discernment among men. This saying hinges upon the Sankhya distinction between Purusha and Prakriti, between the free inactive soul, eternally calm, pure, and unmoved in the midst of works, and ever active nature operative as much in inertia and cessation as in the overt turmoil of her visible hurry of labor. This is the knowledge which the highest effort of the discriminating reason, the buddhi, gives to us, and therefore whoever possesses it is the truly rational and discerning man. Sa- Sabudhiman, Sabuddhiman Manusyashu, not the perplexed thinker who judges life and works by the external, uncertain, and impermanent distinctions of the lower reason. Therefore, the liberated man is not afraid of action. He is a large and universal doer of all works. Krishna karma krit, not as others do them in subjection to nature, but poised in the silent calm of the soul, tranquility in yoga with the divine. The divine is the Lord of his works. He is only their channel through the instrumentality of his nature, conscious of and subject to her Lord. By the flaming intensity and purity of this knowledge, all his works are burned up as in a fire, and his mind remains without any stain or disfiguring mark from them, calm, silent, unperturbed, white and clean and pure. To do all in this liberating knowledge without the personal egoism of the doer is the first sign of the divine worker.
Yeah. Okay. So he has told you what the solution is. Okay. It's a fairly big one, and we have only 6 minutes left. So we'll do one thing. We will discuss the basic idea, and then there are some words and all that. So we'll see that next time, next week. But today, what we can say is that you have to understand. So first of all, what Srivna is saying is that the action that one is talking about is an attitude by which you physical action, if you don't do, and you just sit in a chair, are your thoughts also not moving? Are your emotions also not coming? Physical action is not the only action. Okay? Your emoting also is action. Your mind also is in movement all the time. That also is action. So the one who sees action in inaction, that's what the Gita is saying. The one who sees action in inaction, physically you see the man sitting quiet. So others who are ignorant will say, oh, the man is not acting. He is very wise. He is not acting. He is in a spiritual consciousness. Not at all. Okay. His mind is working and his heart also is going on having emotions. So the man who really sees that his heart and mind are having action, although his physical is not in action, he is the one who sees action in inaction. And the spiritual man sees another man who is in a spiritual consciousness. He is acting, he is sweeping the floor, he is reading, he is teaching, he is doing everything that is in the physical world. Krishna karma krit, every action. Okay? But inside, his consciousness is absolutely stable, not moving at all. The Brahmic consciousness, immutable consciousness. That he says is seeing inaction in action. So the one who is ignorant sees inaction in action, and the spiritual man sees inaction in action. This is the basic thing what he's saying here. Okay. So, and then also saying this thing very clearly, the you can do all works. Krishna karma krit. Okay. Yukta, he is in a concentrated condition and is doing all the works. Okay. Krishna karma krit. Akarma, non-doing of physical action, does not give you liberation at all. That's the whole idea. Okay, so this is what he's saying. And so one who sees, this is the knowledge that Buddhiman Manushyeshu is the one who is wise in human beings, is the one who sees inaction in action. In other words, the man is doing all works, but his consciousness is absolutely stable. The one who can see that, he is a Buddhiman. He is a wise man among human beings. That's what it means. Okay. So we will do this again next time. because there are some, for instance, he's saying, what then is the solution? What is this type of works by which we shall be released from the ills of life? So what are the ills of life? What are the doubts? What is the error? What is this grief? And what is mixed, impure and baffling? All this we'll have to discuss and make it very, very clear. Okay. So we'll take it up next time because we have only 2 minutes left. Okay. So I hope your power is steady. My power today from morning itself, from 5 o'clock in the morning is unsteady. It's fluctuating. Okay.
Okay, Rangada, bye. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Rangata.
Merci.
Thank you, Rangata.
Okay.
Thank you, Dada.
Hello.